So here we are going to perform a partial equilibrium analysis, which basically means the commodity, the demand for each and every commodity is related to n other commodities demand and price and so on by the relation of substitutes, complements, inputs which are needed to make that good. Okay, so there are several other aspects. Now, partial equilibrium analysis means that I am taking one or two commodities in isolation. So it may happen that if I am talking about, let's say, butter, then not only it is related to bread, it's related to milk, it's related to agriculture, it's related to fodder, it's related to a lot of things. It's related to logistics, okay, preservation technologies, storage systems, so many things. And each one of them relates to a different market. And all of them, okay, have a they have an effect on the price and quantity that we observe in the market for butter. So in real world, every commodity is related to the other commodity in most of the cases. But in partial equilibrium analysis, what we do is we take, let's say if I talk about butter, we take only butter, we talk about only its price and its quantity, demanded quantity supplied, and then we study essentially what is happening to this. Okay, so for that, here we are interested in price determination. So this is our objective, price determination, obviously market price. So for that, we are going to construct a mathematical structure, and the mathematical structure has its prerequisites. So what are the prerequisites? First of all, we need some notations to use for the important variables that we define. Then we need some assumptions, not only related to how the market behaves, but if you are considering a very specific form of equation, that is an assumption. Okay. So first, talk about the variables. So obviously we have three. One is QD, and that is quantity demanded. Remember, we write like this: quantity demanded. We know from micro that writing simply demand and writing quantity demanded are very different things. So QD, then QS, then P. And then we have our assumptions. So in our assumptions, we have two parts. Number one is the equilibrium condition. And you know what that is. So the equilibrium condition is QD minus QS equals to 0. If I write it in terms of economics, what is the economic interpretation? There are two. Number one is we say that market is cleared. Market is cleared. Okay, that's one way of saying that QD minus QS equals to 0. The other way of saying is this: excess demand is 0. So excess demand is 0. Just to tell you that if I multiply it with a minus 1, then this equation becomes QS minus QD equal to 0. And technically speaking, they are identical. But in terms of interpretation, this means excess supply, not demand, excess supply is 0. So market is cleared, that is in equilibrium, excess demand is 0 at equilibrium, or in other way, excess supply is 0 in equilibrium. Okay. And then we have two behavioral equations, as we say, call it. So that will be 2 and 3. So they are behavioral equations. And behavior of what? Behavior of demand and behavior of supply. We want to keep things simple. So we are saying that QD is a function of P, which is decreasing, and QS is a function of P where it is increasing. Remember, this is done for simplicity. This is the usual scenario, but it's not the case that if I take quantity demanded to be positive, then I'll not have an equilibrium. That's not the scenario. But in general, we take this. And to make matters even simpler, to talk about specifically to talk about parameters, we are going to make a linear approximation of these functions, demand and supply. So we take linear approximations. So we have QD is equal to A minus BP. Writing up to this is incomplete. It becomes complete when I say that A and B, which are the parameter, they are positive. Similarly for QS, I write minus C plus DP, where C and D are positive. You may observe that we have assumed specifically a negative vertical intercept. Negative vertical intercept. It has a very specific purpose. It ensures actually the fact that the solution of P and Q that we get, they remain in the first quadrant. So I'll draw 3 diagrams, only one of which will satisfy that. Okay. So Q and P. Although in Math-Eco, you can have P here and Q here. But anyways, just for the time being, to not change it really from the culture of Marshall, we are writing like this. Okay, so we can have a scenario where the demand curve is this and the supply curve is this. So here, do you have equilibrium? Yes, you have equilibrium. But where is it? It is in this second quadrant. And that doesn't really make any economic sense. So equilibrium with no economic meaning. And to capture that, what will we say? We will say that the equilibrium exists only if it exists in the first quadrant. In the first quadrant. Okay. See, mathematically, having this is an equilibrium because QD equal to QS here. But that doesn't have any economic meaning. What is the meaning of negative quantity being sold at equilibrium? So we say that the equilibrium exists only if it exists in the first quadrant. And that requires some conditions. So this is a diagram where it fails. Let's take a look at another diagram where it will fail. So let's say this is my demand curve and this is my supply curve. Okay, so in this case also, I have the same problem. Remember, in this, supply function does have a negative vertical intercept, right? But that doesn't ensure really that we have an equilibrium in the first quadrant. Okay, so we take this minus c in a way so that we have an equilibrium in the first quadrant. And what are the requirements? So to exist, so for the equilibrium to exist, first of all, if I take this diagram, what do we have here? Here we need okay, write like this: PD of 0 has to be greater than PS of 0. What are PD and PS? They are demand price and supply price. Okay. So what do we know from here? That to have a meaningful equilibrium, we have to guarantee the fact that the price the buyer is ready to pay for the first unit must be higher than the price at which the supplier is ready to accept the sale of the first unit. What is the second one? The second one comes from here, and here it says that QD of 0 must be greater than QS of 0. So that is, at the least possible price, the demand must be more than the supply. So given these two are satisfied, we have the fact that the equilibrium exists. That is, it is in the first quadrant. Okay. Now, before we actually go and solve it, let us ask a question. Why do we consider straight line? Is it because we want to use easier mathematics, which is middle school standard? Not really. We considered straight line because of a very important property of straight lines, and that property is, we can write it as result, but it's more of common knowledge, is that non-parallel straight lines intersect or let me write like this: two non-parallel straight lines intersect only once. And that's a huge advantage, because this means that if I take straight line demand and supply, then that automatically tells me the equilibrium is unique. Remember, had I considered a quadratic function or a polynomial for that matter, I would have a real problem. Why? Because then the equilibrium will not be unique. So in that case, I have to find out all the equilibria, and then I have to check whether I can actually eliminate some of them based on the fact that they are not on the first quadrant. So taking straight lines with the conditions of existence satisfied, we don't have this problem. Okay. So the diagram is pretty simple. Okay. Or this time I'll take P here and Q here. The reason is that it is safer to follow the textbook. Okay, so this is my demand curve. And as we know that the supply curve comes with a negative intercept. So this is minus C. This is my A. And in the intersection point, I have equilibrium P star and Q star. And let's say this is E star. So you know how to solve it. There's no point of discussing that. We use this fact of Qd equal to Qx and obtain that P star is A plus C by B plus D. Given these four conditions, we know that this is positive. That means it is meaningful, right? So somehow if you miss to check the fact of the conditions related to the existence, then checking this, that P star is positive, it solves half of your job. What is the rest? The rest is that Q star, which will be here AD minus BC divided by B plus D. This also has to be positive. So if both are positive, then you are done. Your condition of existence is satisfied. But just note the fact that this expression, it doesn't need to be positive, right? So here we have a restriction, a further restriction. And what is that restriction? It says AD strictly greater than BC. Otherwise, we will have a problem, right? But just to mention, you see, in our system, we had two variables, Q and P, and we had four parameters, A, B, and C, D. And how do we recognize the fact that indeed we solved the problem? How do you know this? That we solved the problem? We know this by a simple fact that P star and Q star are expressed entirely in terms of parameters. In terms of parameters. Okay. So now we'll just check the existence condition once. So we said that the demand price, right? So PD at 0 must be greater than PS at 0. So what are they? PD 0 means QD. If I put QD 0, then it becomes A by B. And that must be greater than, in case of supply, it becomes minus C by D. No, what am I doing? Sorry, C by D. So this is A by B and this is C by D. And if you interchange, what it becomes? AD greater than BC. See? So that means your condition for existence is automatically satisfied. But let's just check the other one. There we have D of 0 must be greater than S of 0. So what is D of 0? That is A. And what is S of 0? That is minus C. So given that A and C both are positive, considering this to be minus C makes our problem only trivial. This is a negative number, so obviously it will be less. Okay, so that's why when we said negative intercept, it becomes vital. Okay, so one of the important learning at the end is that after expressing all this in parameters and noting the fact that we have completed the solution of the problem, is that this condition that we find, putting the restriction that Q star must be positive, is the same condition that we arrive at if we make the condition for existence satisfy at the very first. Okay, just remember, had I been considering this C to be negative, that is, if I consider this instead of minus, if I write it as plus C, then you would have got this restriction in specific from P star. Okay,